is May 20th, 2024. This is the Town of Mount Airy's monthly May Planning Commission meeting. I call this meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As I always do, I want to welcome those who have taken the evening to join us here in Town Hall for the commission meeting, and also for those who can't be here but are following tonight's proceedings through the Facebook live stream. So welcome to all in your participation in the municipal government business. The first order of business is going to be our approval of the past meeting's minutes on April 29th. So I'll pause here while each of the commissioners refresh any notes they may have regarding the minutes provided by the town staff. And so now I'll look for a motion for approval or disapproval of the April 29th minutes.
I will motion to approve the minutes as written.
Commissioner Bynack makes the motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Butts makes the second. Is there any discussion, amendments, changes to the April 29th minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the April 29th minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously to accept the minutes. Thank you. At this part in tonight's agenda, we open the town hall here before the commissioners for any public comment for matters that we try to limit to items that are not on tonight's agenda. So any topic in general beyond tonight's agenda. I ask if there's any members of the public, if you could just raise your hand. I could see a number. Once again, any public comments for matters not on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion of tonight's agenda, and we'll move now to our two county planning liaisons. We'll begin with Carroll County and Ms. Hannah Weber coming down from Westminster. Good evening, Hannah.
Hello, everybody. Some quick updates for you all. As you know, we are undergoing a housing study in Carroll County. We are currently going, the current part of the process we are in now is going out to different events that are being hosted around the county. We have scheduled an event in Mount Airy on June 10th. It's going to be kind of coupled with the Mount Airy Food Trucks event. So if you want to grab some dinner and provide some comment for housing, that would be much appreciated. I also have some handouts that include a survey as well as our housing study website if anybody is interested in a handout. Next, we have the water and sewer amendment. This was approved by our Board of County Commissioners on Thursday, and our water and sewer planner has sent that to the Maryland Department of the Environment for their official approval. And it won't be effective until we get that official approval back from the state. And then lastly, we have received the draft 2023 Mount Airy plan, and we are in the process of reviewing it. I've received comments. So what I did is, obviously I'm reviewing it myself, but then I also sent it out to other county agencies, and I've received some really good comments from people in resource management, public safety, fire and EMS, and Carroll County Public Schools. Some really good comments, I think. One thing that I was thinking, I'm not sure if MDP might comment this, is a housing element. I'm still in the process of reviewing it, but it seems like that might be a small missing component so far. There's some, obviously a housing element is required by state law to be included in all comprehensive plans, and that on top of newly passed state legislation requires different things to be included in that housing element, And that includes things like affirmatively furthering fair housing, workforce low-income housing, area median income, and how to address needs for affordable housing. So I'm not sure if MDP might comment that because that's more of a state thing or not. Just want to put that on your radar. And then I also had a comment about the water resource element, but I talked to Barney. It seems like that would be a kind of task that the town and the county are going to work on together. That's kind of like the standard go-ahead that we did in the 2013 plan as well. The county kind of undergoes the water resource element with all the municipalities, and we have a consultant that updated the 2013 numbers, and that should be included in your plan as well. And then, yeah.
And on June the 10th,
Yeah.
how will the feedback opportunity occur? On June 10th, you mentioned that there will be a feedback opportunity, or at least Carroll County wants to collect feedback in conjunction with the food truck.
Yeah.
That's here on those dates. Where will people who want to make a comment or want to hear what's being said,
Yeah.
where should they go? How will it be arranged and so forth?
So I'm not the planner that's like directly involved with the housing study, but I imagine they'll be right where the food trucks are. I imagine that's by the park.
So you'll probably want to reach out to Basket, and Blossom and Basket. So they're sort of the organizer of Food Truck Monday. So
Yeah.
if they haven't spoken with them,
Yeah, we
Oh,
have it all
sure.
confirmed and everything,
Okay.
so I just may not be up to date with all of the details of what exactly, but I do know we've had events at the Veterans Celebration in Westminster. We were at Hampstead Day this past weekend. It's basically just a table set up, handouts are given, and then also people have the opportunity to place stickers on a board, kind of identifying positives and negatives that they see in the housing industry right now. So different ways to contribute feedback, and then obviously a survey that's ongoing throughout all of the events.
What kind of publicity in advance will be used to let the public know that opportunity will be available?
We have a website that's currently online that has the events that we've been to and that are going to, and that's also included in the handouts that I have. But
Gotcha. And on that, council member Jason, we may want to put together a little something, and you could introduce it at the council meeting at the beginning
yeah,
of June.
that'd be great.
And
That'd be great.
just spread the word through the council meeting, perhaps.
That'd be great.
Great.
Sweet.
and I can also reach out to Ashley and have her, maybe blast something out on the social media.
Let's do.
Super.
Sweet.
Any other questions for Ms. Weber for Carroll County? Thanks so much, Hannah.
Thanks.
And from Frederick County, we have Justin. How are you tonight, Justin? Doing well, thanks.
The first thing that I have is that I am in the process of reviewing the master plan. Didn't really have anything too kind of no super red flags or anything in reviewing it so far. There's just a couple of minor things in the first chapter with our livable Frederick and some updates with that. An ongoing planning effort with the county is investing in workers and workplaces. The Department of Planning is in partnership with the Division of Economic Development. They're looking to increase the land designations for targeted economic opportunity using, looking at uses through growth areas, and that kind of came about with industrial land being taken up by and sought after by the people who are looking at data centers. So a lot of our industrial land that is zoned through our comprehensive plan are kind of losing out towards that other use, higher use of the data centers. So they're looking kind of, they're taking this opportunity to kind of broadly look at economic opportunity in the county, and that just started the 7th, I think, and there's another meeting later this month with that. The Frederick County Water Resources, WRE, was workshopped in front of the Planning Commission on May 15th. A more finalized document is going to be presented on June 26th because of a county holiday. And then I had on May 8th, there were two commercial solar plans that were in front of the Planning Commission. Those are up towards Walkersville, but that's something that's going to probably be more frequent as time goes on. So just being aware that the county is kind of having applications of those nature. And I just have at the Ligonor Town Center, there's a site plan for a veterinarian hospital, and that's going to be on June 12th.
Justin, how big are the solar fields?
I don't have them off the top of my head, but they were pretty
Pretty big.
substantial size.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Any other commissioner questions for Frederick County? Would it be fair to say, Justin, that data centers are getting a foothold in are, choosing my words carefully, are attractive to Frederick County planning?
I'm going to be careful with my words because I'm not necessarily deeply involved in that process, but there have been, a couple, I guess there's a lot of speculation, and that's something that, there's still a process they have to go through with the floating
Sure.
drone and things of that nature, so it isn't like, but I think a lot of people have been speculating on it being a bigger thing in the county, especially as it's been bigger elsewhere, and
Right.
just everything being, tech becoming bigger and bigger.
Right.
But it is something I think that has taken away from other opportunities, especially in a lot of the flex space that are people were looking at. So that was probably the main reason for this plan that is going through.
Gotcha. Any other questions? Thank you so much, Justin. We'll now move to the first item of business. It is the introduction and discussion and recommendation by this commission to the Board of Appeals with regard to Wildwood Section 7. Wildwood Section 7 is registered in the town staff as document MA-BOA-2024-02. Again, the matter tonight is a special exception request for review and recommendation from this commission to the Board of Appeals. And so if I may begin with a bit of guidance on this before I turn to the town staff. So it's a wonderful turnout tonight, and I just want to make sure the expectations are understood. This first step with regard to a special exception, I will explain, and that special exception is strictly upon the land use being applied for. And the land use special exception is derived from our code, which requires that this R3 zone district under 112-26 of the town code, it states that special exceptions exist in the R3 district when the following principal uses are provided as a special exception. And number 5 in that, number 10 in that list of special exceptions is elderly housing, detached and attached units. And the reference then from that R3 zoning code points us over now to the special exception code, which is 112-62. So I know I'm throwing out a lot of numbers, but I just want to provide for the audience here, why are we here and why is this referred to as a special exception? So I'm being deliberately a bit instructive here. And so based upon the code, this is an elderly housing application. It is within an R3 district. Therefore, it now needs to come before the board so that the Board of Appeals can make a decision with regard to that exception. Our job here tonight is to determine whether this application, land use for elderly housing in an R3 district, is consistent with other uses within that area, consistent and in harmony with what is already around there. And again, I'm trying to be a bit constrained here that we're really not here to talk about the actual plan. the actual application. We're here to confine our discussions to whether this land use is a recommendation to the Board of Appeals as proper under the special exception guidance. Does that make sense? I hope so. So I now turn to our town staff with regard to the background on this application. John?
Yeah, thank you, Ralph. So yeah, so this application did come in from, sorry about that. My mic went off. Again, so the applicant, which can of course come to the front table here because they will be presenting as well, was received from, let me find my staff report, where is it here? Oh, wait. Here we are, I'm sorry.
While John is catching up, if the applicant and/or their representatives are here, you're welcome to come up to the table. If you need more than 2 chairs, we can certainly make arrangements. I can give you mine. And just, if you do speak, if you could pull it towards you and just make sure the green light is on, either of you. And I'll ask that you introduce yourselves as soon as John is finished.
Sure, no worries, thank you, Ralph. Again, we did receive these requests for special exception on May 18th, 2024, for the above-mentioned parcel, which is located at 1015 Ridge Avenue. Again, the request is to have a special exception for elderly housing, detached and attached units. And again, in the staff report, I've also attached the 11262 F21, which is what the special exception they're requesting. And again, this is more for just the use and a recommendation from the Planning Commission to move forward to the Board of Appeals. Once we have a recommendation either for favorable or non-favorable, then it'll go to Board of Appeals. Again, we'll be advertising, notifying the citizens again of Wildwood, and also signing the property as we did for this meeting. That's pretty much where I'm at.
Fantastic. Then if I may ask you to introduce yourselves, and you're invited to make any additional statements to the application, sirs.
Thank you. My name is John McGuire. I'm the attorney for the applicant, and to my right is Michael Berman. He's the owner of the property and has been the owner of the previous Wildwood Park sections. And to my left, in the first row, is Michael Van Sant. He's the project engineer. And
can we pull the microphone so that the black piece is facing you? There you go.
so we really don't have anything to add. You all, I assume, have the drawing and the proposal as to what we want to do. The specialists, I would add to the chairman's adept description of why we're here, that a special exception is legally presumed to be a valid use, but it does have to go through this process with the Board of Appeals. And we'll have to show that there are no extraordinary impacts at this particular location that would make it inappropriate.
Exactly.
Sort of in layman's terms. So with that,
It really needs to be like right in front of you and bring up the black thing towards your mouth. So it should be, is that better?
is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I think I need to speak a little louder also. So that's basically what's before you. We are supportive of the staff's recommendation, which is favorable to get to the Board of Appeals. I would also mention that we filed a memorandum and raised a couple of design issues. And I understand that that's technically not what this meeting is about. But if after the Planning Commission makes its decision on the request, I would appreciate a few minutes just to explain this, because I think it's something we will be asking about. And again, I assume you've all seen that, and it's at your discretion, of course, but that's what I'm hoping you'll listen to us for a few minutes on that.
I would, let me defer that request just for a moment. But I'd like to, because of our busy agenda tonight, and there will be an opportunity for the full plan to then become the agenda item. Let me, if you're finished with your additional statements.
Yes.
Great. And so, again, welcome. And what I do now on this particular agenda item is open the floor briefly to anyone who wishes to speak with specifics to this agenda item. And if there are, could I just ask that you raise your hand? I see one hand. Okay. And John is turning your microphone on so that, and I think if I'm not mistaken, the gentleman's name is Roger.
Here, Roger, instead of you getting up, I'm just going
There you go, John.
That is correct, sir. My name is Roger Dahlman. I live at 1001 Promenade Lane, and I'm accompanied here by my wife and my next door neighbor, Sam Almerici. Now, I was reading the letter I received in the mail, and it speaks to an exception. Well, for some time, many of us have been aware of a major issue in this exception. It's not necessarily concerning the development of this property, but the part of the exception is for the residents of this property to be 55 years and older. And I want to bring to the Commission's attention that this conflicts with the age limitation for all the rest of the Wildwood Park community, which is 62 and older. And we, and me in particular, have never understood why there was a request for an exception of a lower age for the residents of this development when all the rest of the community has a 62-year age requirement. Now, that has never been explained, and I've been tracking this issue for about 10 years since the initial exception was made by the Planning Commission about 10 years ago. I don't know the particulars of how that decision was reached, but I think that that the commission at that time was not completely informed of the sentiments of the community and some of the other considerations. The other considerations are, of course, that age difference. And many of us, myself and my neighbors, do not understand why there has to be two different age, there has to be this age distinction in Wildwood Park development. And I'm speaking tonight to ask the Planning Commission not to recommend an exception be granted approved by the Appeals Board if that age restriction is less than the one for the rest of the community, because that creates a host of different problems that we don't have time to get into now, sir.
I understand.
Okay, now, I do have a comment about,
Roger, if I can give you 30 more seconds, okay, please, sir?
okay, I have a comment about the circumstances at the time that this exception was first granted by the Planning Commission. I had just moved into the community and I saw this gray board nestled among the shrubs and weeds at the end of Promenade Lane. I read the board and I couldn't understand what it meant because of all the legal code references. Not only did that board not advise the community of what was being requested, but at the time of the the commission made its decision, I doubt very seriously that whether any member of the Wildwood Park community was present to state some of the concerns and consequences of that age distinction.
Great. Roger, I think you've made two real good points here.
So in summary, sir,
Okay.
I want to restate my recommendation, not my recommendation, but my concern that the Planning Commission not recommend that this exception be granted if there continues to be an age distinction between whatever is developed and the rest of the Wildwood Park, which contains about 160 residences and over 300 residents 62 and older. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roger. One more time, any other public comments on this specific agenda item? Seeing none, I close the public comments on this agenda item. I would add that what the gentleman is referring to is found in 112-62, paragraph F, Bowlegs 21, which states that covenants must be developed for this particular detached or attached elderly housing where occupancy is restricted to persons 55 years of age or older. I won't go further into that paragraph, but it adds more information with regard to that age restriction. So again, I'm just referencing what the gentleman is indicating in the code. Again, being instructive here for everybody. Again, thank you. And so at this point, I will accept a motion, a second, and then we can have some discussion with regard to that motion on forwarding a recommendation to the Board of Appeals on this matter.
Do you want to go ahead? Okay. I'll make a motion to open discussion on this matter. Oh, sorry. I said the wrong, I'm sorry. I heard your words.
A motion to provide a favorable
Yeah.
or unfavorable recommendation to the Board of Appeals.
Okay. So I make a motion to provide a favorable or unfavorable recommendation to the board.
One or the other.
Okay, I'll say favorable. Sorry.
Okay, I believe the motion from Commissioner Hadley is that she has moved to recommend a favorable recommendation to the Board of Appeals. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Binack seconds that motion. I'll now open that motion to any discussion from the commissioners only. Commissioner Butts?
I have a basic question. Since it was originally proposed for senior housing, what was the stipulation in terms of the acceptable age? And has that changed at all since we embarked upon elderly housing?
When did Wildwood start?
So there is something in our code, or an ordinance 2002-4, and it was an ordinance put forth in May 6th of 2002 to change it.
From 62 to 55.
Yeah.
Okay.
I made it younger. Yeah, you want the, see, there's two more.
All right, so that occurred.
It occurred in May. It occurred May 6th.
You are correct, yeah. That's
Did
right.
it go to vote? Was it approved or not?
It was approved.
So it could be either or.
It could.
Yeah, it just means they lowered it to 55.
They have to.
Right.
It just means that they could
They do.
lower it to 55.
Yeah.
Can we ask,
Let's ask Tom.
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah, so Tom, I think what we have before us is, we have the original Wildwood being established, again, through a special exception by the Board of Appeals at that time, under a 112-62F21 paragraph, which at that time was an age 62 requirement. It then was amended in 2002 to change it to 55. So with regard to us forwarding a recommendation to the Board of Appeals, would there be conditions on that exception that we need to voice regarding this age limit or not?
No, I think that the other sections, not all of them necessarily, but some of the other sections were developed under the old ordinance. The ordinance changes in 2002. Hence, this section falls under the current code, which permits a age restriction of 55 or older.
Correct.
And yeah, that was determination by the legislative body, who obviously weighed
Right.
the impacts of that back then and determined it would.
Just a moment, miss. Yeah, just a moment, miss.
Okay. What I was saying is that the current section will fit under this code. And so this code,
Stands.
a development with a restriction of 55 or older.
Correct.
Town council, back in 2002, dropped the age and presumably considered those impacts and ultimately passed the ordinance. And of course, the mayor signed presumably, or somehow it was not vetoed.
Right. Correct.
So that's the law that applies to this particular section is 55.
And so to the question of whether or not we either have the authority or the purview to make adjustments to that, I believe we do not have that authority.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, that is a legislative matter through the council and the mayor
Correct.
to make any change or adjustments to paragraph 21 of that
Correct.
exemption. Okay? Any other commissioner discussion on the motion?
Yeah, just to clarify, because originally, Mr. Chair, when you stated, one of the things that we're deciding is if this matches or the surrounding area.
Right.
Now, if that was 62 and this is 55, then they don't match.
Can I explain the legal test just a little more refined? It's not whether, I'll try, sorry. I've got this computer here. All right. The legal standard is not, does it blend in with the surrounding property? The legal standard is, on this particular property, due to unique features of the property, its shape or something like that, are the impacts for this particular use greater than the impacts on other properties within the same zoning district? In other words, is this particular use uniquely impactful here versus another parcel within the zone? That's the legal test, and that's set forth by what we call now, I think, is the Supreme Court of Maryland. Used to be the Court of Appeals. So that's what you're looking at.
And if I could ask you to kind of spread impactful out a bit, impact to exactly what kind of elements?
Well, the usual and ordinary impacts that people look at when they look at development could be traffic, could be impacts on schools, or it could be impacts on water and sewer. Gotcha. Things like that. So again, and that's because the legislature has already determined that by and large, this use, conditional as it may be, meaning it has to be approved by the Board of Appeals, is an appropriate conditional use or special exception within this particular zone. And the purpose of this proceeding and the Board of Appeals proceeding is to precisely make that determination. The main focus of the Board of Appeals will be, is this property, due to its unique features somehow, does that make this use really more impactful or adversely impactful here versus another parcel within the same district? That's the legal question.
I see. Thank you so much for that. Is there any other commissioner discussion on this? There's a motion on the floor for favorable recommendation to allow this proposed use of elderly housing detached and attached units under section 11262F, subparagraph 21. It has been seconded. There's no further commissioner discussion, so I will now ask for a vote. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion has passed. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Kelly, I asked for public opinion, public comment, and I closed it. So thank you. No, we didn't, because at the beginning, I guided the discussion to be constrained to just 11262F21 for special exception land use. Once this gets through the Board of Appeals, if it gets through the Board of Appeals, it will then come back to us as a final subdivision plan, and that's where, going back to the gentleman up here, he will be given a chance, and that's my ruling here tonight, that we will then discuss the details of the layout, the elevations, the density, and the plan itself. Tonight was strictly for the special exception for land use to go forward to the Board of Appeals.
And my suggestion on that, and I think I spoke to you about this, is that once it comes back from the Board of Appeals, then we'll set a separate meeting for all these variations that you're looking for to address those questions at that point in time, prior to a submission of a concept plan.
That's a good idea. And we spent the time to submit the memorandum to you, so I think you can understand it and hopefully have a chance to think about it. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you. The next item on tonight's agenda is the introduction, discussion, and commission vote on a possible extension request. This is for the Twin Arch Business Park, Lot 19, Section 4. This is registered in the town staff as S-18-0004. And as we begin with the staff report, I'll ask for the applicant and any representatives that they wish to come forward. And we will begin then with a staff report by the Director of Planning.
Sure, thank you. Again, this is the fourth extension for this site plan, but I do want to make certain that everybody understands this is a new owner. The previous owner.
If I could, excuse me, Roger, and those who wish to continue, if I could ask that you go into the ante room so we can move on with tonight's matters. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no
Go ahead.
worries. Again, so this is a new owner of the property. She is very eager to start construction. The previous approval, the gentleman, the owner of that property at that time, was going through a bunch of issues. The COVID came in. There was other issues that came up, but he has sold the property to Miss Dove, and she is eager to start building the building. She currently is a owner of a business in the air park. I think I live in Westminster. I
Say it all the
apologize.
time.
So the business park, Twin Arch Business Park, and which is M&M Welding, and she is very eager to start the project. I think she's actually going to be pulling a building permit within the next few months, is my understanding.
Actually, at the end of this month.
Okay, so it's almost, she's almost getting to a point where she would already have a building permit, so this approval for this extension is not necessary, but a safeguard just in case. So again, staff is recommending that we grant a favorable extension for 1 year for S-18-0004.
Great. So, Mrs. Dove, welcome.
Miss,
Miss, I'm sorry.
a lot of money to get that R out of there.
Well, again, welcome.
There is a revised staff report. Hopefully everybody got it. It's the red lettering.
Okay, gotcha. I'm sorry. I read what they put in front of me. But welcome again. And so this is your opportunity to add to whatever the Director of Planning indicated on this application.
I'm just going to reiterate what Mr. Brenning said, is we're very eager to get moving on this thing as quickly as possible. The building permit's going to be submitted next week, and so hopefully, with your all's extension approval, we'll be rocking and rolling.
Fantastic. At this moment, as I do with all agenda items, I open for a few moments for anyone who wishes to make a public comment specific to this application in the Twin Arch Business Park. May I see a show of hands? Once more, any public comments specific to this application? Seeing none, I close the public comments portion of this agenda item. And now what I'd like to do is I'd like to, because this is an fourth extension, and because we do have a plan that I believe originated with the prior owner, if I may, Service Master, and as far as I can understand from the staff analysis, you're content with the as-is plan. And so before I ask for a motion, I'm going to change up a little bit here and just let's have a discussion about this first before I'll entertain a motion.
Okay.
And so I just ask the commissioners, if you have a question for Ms. Dove, then, just direct it at her on anything in that plan. So I open it to a commissioner. No comments, no questions? Commissioner Butts?
There are so many properties out in Backacre Circle.
Bill, can you pull your mic closer to your mouth?
There's so many properties out in Backacre Circle that over the years, we lose track of the purpose of each particular property. Can you very quickly overview what the original purpose of this was when you bought it or your concern took ownership of it? Has there been any changes in what you want to accomplish with it?
No, basically, it's going to be a storage warehouse for us. It's, we're not going to have, I would say, maybe 1 or 2 employees working over there at any one time. It's kind of diagonal to where our current property is at 2701 Backacre Circle.
Okay.
Any other commissioner questions? I have a couple. Ms. Dove, obviously,
Sorry.
no, go.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, all right.
I'll say something. So,
I have some just very specific questions. Obviously, the original plan, which you are adopting, it has the Service Master sign shown on an elevation. Obviously, you will submit a sign request separate to this application per the code for us to review and approve whatever sign for your business that you wish to put on it.
Correct.
You understand that?
Yes,
Gotcha.
sir.
Okay. As far as the prior plan Service Master water allocation, I turn to the town engineer. Barney, any comments on the water allocation for this business?
Sounds like for storage, it's not going to use any more water than what we would have already had.
Gotcha. So we've already accounted for it from the original submission, and it'll carry forth to her.
That's correct.
Gotcha. Okay. Including sewer, water and sewer. Gotcha. My only other question has to do with the current plan's parking. And again, parking plays into the county stormwater management, impervious surface. You understand all that, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
That parking around that building is good for you? It's not going to change or be adjusted?
It's going to be sufficient, yes.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. John, I think you had an item?
yeah, the only thing I was going to say is if an interior change is going to happen, like a larger mezzanine or a larger office area, then that might trigger where we might have to come back and do an amended site plan. But it sounds with the 2 or 3 individuals, they might come and go during the day. But
Right.
there is no actual office area. You might not even build the office mezzanine area. So then the parking would still be sufficient. That's it.
Thank you.
Got you. And then the last thing I'll state is an extension is usually required within our code when there's a issue that arises that prevents the applicant from asking for permitting within 24 months of the final plan approval, if I'm not mistaken, John.
Correct.
And so we have seen that in the previous owner occur. 3 times already.
Not with me.
And
The
so,
building's already on order.
and that's wonderful, Ms. Dove. I don't know if I speak for all the commissioners, but I just want to stress that a 4th extension of a plan is extraordinary. But with the confidence I think you've provided this commission and to the Director of Planning, as you introduced it, you're looking to get underway on this.
Yes, sir.
And get moving. So with that, and if there are no other comments, Commissioner Beta?
I'm good. Okay. My questions were answered.
Commissioner O'Malley?
When did you take over the property?
I'm sorry?
When did you take over the property?
Oh, I purchased it on the 1st of April of
Okay.
this year.
Okay. I couldn't make it out because I know that we've kind of changed some things, but I was trying to look at your landscaping. I can't see it.
So again, this was an approved site plan,
Yeah.
so I don't know about going back and modifying the trees that were approved at a previous. I don't know if that could occur. I don't think so.
Yeah.
The town attorney is shaking his head no. So that is,
Yeah. Okay.
So if no further commissioner questions to the application for an extension of this final site plan, then I would ask for a motion.
I will motion to approve the 1-year extension for Twin Arch Business Park Lot 19 for MGS LLC for 1 year.
Okay.
I'll
And I-
second.
Okay, that has been moved and seconded to approve the extension for this application. And
can we amend that? Because we want to make it out to either Miss Carrie Dove or to S180004, not MSG LLC. That was the previous owner.
correct, so if the motion can be amended by the motion maker,
I will amend the motion.
okay, just restate it for us if you don't mind there.
Okay, and what was the,
Either
for Ms. Dove?
Miss Carrie M. Dove or under S180004.
Okay, so I will amend my recommendation for approval for Business Park, or the site, the extension for 1 year for Twin Arch Business Park for Ms. Carrie Dove for Lot 19. Is that good? Okay.
That's sufficient, gotcha. And since it's been amended, I do need a second on that amendment. Commissioner Butts seconds the amended motion. Is there any further discussion on that motion amended? Hearing no discussion, let's go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion made signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion for approval of the extension is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dove. Best of luck to you getting underway. You're welcome. The next item on our agenda tonight is the introduction and discussion of a document that arose as a need in our April 29th Planning Commission meeting when we looked at a concept plan for a lot over in the Twin Arch Business Park. And if I'm not mistaken, it was the lot 14C. And so this is the applicant's submission of the information that's called out in our code in 25-4C and D, those 2 paragraphs, and I'll just paraphrase here for simplicity, those 2 paragraphs require that in the consideration of a concept plan, we, regardless of the zoning district, that we need to consider the financial footing of the business that's making the application, and also secondly, the compliance with government environmental standards with respect to that proposed business. And so we deferred the further discussion of that concept plan until the applicant, who is represented, I believe, by their engineer, could provide that information. This is that information. And so again, as I usually do, I'll turn to the town staff for any further elaboration. John?
No, I don't have any further elaboration on that. Again, I think this will probably have to come back again in June for this and the final plan to be presented together for you guys to make a determination. Again, I think once we go through the next stage of the of this approval, then I think I would feel that there'd be a favorable recommendation on this as well.
Got you.
And I'll do a memo of sorts to accompany the letter
Got you.
for June's meeting.
And if I may add to the Director of Planning's comments relative to this item, in a brief discussion with our town attorney, I am not going to ask for a motion or even a roll call, thumbs up or down, with respect to this submission of 25-4 C&D information. I think it best that this information, as per the code, be considered when we do look at that concept plan. And I believe, in fairness to you, John, would that likely be the June meeting?
I would think it's going to be the June meeting. I think it is the final plan, if I'm not mistaken.
Final plan. Thank you. Thank you. So with that, I would just ask the commissioners to continue to take time to look over that submission by the applicant's engineer, and then let it be a part of then the read-ahead that we'll get for June 24th meeting, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Tom, anything to add on that?
No.
Okay. Okay, then I'm going to close that item and move into the last two items that we have before our reports and other business. The first item is a draft open space waiver worksheet. Now, as a bit of background, I want to impress upon all the commissioners that this draft worksheet is a straw man. It is by no means, in my authoring it, intended to become the final document that guides us through the process that we have to adhere to in the code for determining open space waivers. It is one person's thinking as to how we could be repeatable and, of course, following our code and answering the questions that guide us to an open space waiver approval. I don't need to elaborate among us here as to how precious our open space is, since we are in fact operating in a deficit. 3 acres per 100 residents is the standard, and we don't have that. And so while we're in a deficit, an open space waiver is required at the concept plan stage, regardless of zoning district. And so again, this effort was invoked at the April 29th meeting when we were considering an application concept plan for an industrial zone property. And so it kicked off that we need to get this process done. And then the last thing I say is, because of the sunshine law and in full view and transparency to the public, it's difficult for this commission and all 7 of us as volunteers to kind of collaborate out of your view to get to what is righteous and following the code with regard to any procedure such as this. And so we have to do it kind of in these settings. Other than that, we could possibly call special workshops in the evening. But I felt like our start point on this to kind of get our juices going on what is repeatable and following the code would be to throw out this straw man as a way to get us going, and then let's just have this discussion here. If we conclude this discussion with something else that we can all agree with, again, as the start point for this process, then I'm absolutely open to it, okay? So again, I'm not looking for a motion, I'm not looking for a roll call, I'm looking for a discussion on what everybody believes could be a consensus on how to move forward. And so 25-5G, subparagraph 3, has 3 questions that the council approved in our deliberation on an open space waiver. And so that A, B, and C subparagraph gives us the code required shalls, and the wording is shall. So we can't ignore it as a commission. We got to do it. It's not like may consider or suggest you consider. It is shall consider. And so we have to abide by that. And so at a minimum, I would think, as my first offer in this discussion tonight on this process, would be it's unavoidable that we have to at least deliberate on those three subparagraphs to get to an open space waiver up or down vote. And so I'll stop right there and then invite any other thoughts.
I'll go. Okay. Yeah, I was looking at the worksheet, and then I was considering, going back to 25-5 and the adequate facilities and really what we need to do and thinking about when we were talking about it. And, I don't know if I would really like to see the worksheet with the point value systems because it's a lot of math and we're running around and it's doing a lot of stuff. I think if it was me, or I don't know what anybody else would think about it, I like the baseline info that we have. I think getting that filled out and then presenting that to us and, when the project comes forward, and then maybe have a small 25-5, right? A, B, and C, put it right underneath it. That's what you have to meet. And then we can almost discuss and roll call it on each one, like, does it meet the above requirements to you? Why or why not?
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. You have it in front of you, the facts. You have the code to reference on each project, and just we'll go down, or if you have something to say, why you think it meets that or why you don't. And then we can roll call it, and then we can move on from there. But that was my thought because it's a lot with the points, but I think, we were there when we were discussing this. It's really just to remind us what we're expecting, what we're looking for. Right. It's, if I have a 5-acre industrial property and I have a 300-acre residential property, I'm looking for totally different things. And we all know that, but this is really just a reminder. And I think if we roll call it and then we just say why or why not, like, hey, I like it because it, it gave us this, this, and this, we can write that down and send it forward when we do it. So that's just my thoughts.
Well, Steve, you're advocating a really good alternative here, and I'll even say that. And so anyone else want to roll in on that idea?
I actually agree with what Steve said.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Should we put something in there about industrial and commercial does not apply?
Does not apply with respect to the requirement to offer, yeah, because it doesn't have a residential component in the code. It's not expected. But nonetheless, the other part of the code says it still has to be given a waiver, which is admittedly kind of an oddity. It doesn't have to give one up, but it still needs to get a waiver as it goes through its concept plan deliberation. But the code is what it is. I'm not here to, poke the code in the eye. We just have to do our best with following it. So very good point, Commissioner Hadley, on that. And so she's saying that in that deliberation, probably in the baseline data, we would say, what is the parcel zoning? What is the district zoning for it at the very outset? Yeah. And then for those unique cases where we're talking a commercial, community commercial, et cetera, industrial, you're right, that would weigh heavily, I think, on then going through those three sub-questions.
Identifying it and then, also including in the baseline info what it is providing. Like,
Gotcha.
I don't think that was in there. And it's a ball field for here. It's, open or, or it's active or inactive space. It's this, what it breaks down to. Depending on the project, the longer it's going to be.
So I think, and again, this looks awful bureaucratic, doesn't it? It's about 6 pages.
Thorough.
Well,
You want to use thorough.
I don't know if I'm proud to admit I used to work for the government. But anyway, that may be an artifact of that prior life. But so what I'm hearing, if I can just do a summary on what Commissioner O'Malley has advocated here, is that let's keep the baseline data because it's important to know the who, what, when, where, and the facts of, right? And then we certainly have another page or two for those three questions with enough space where each commissioner could maybe make some notes as we deliberate on it. Is that fair?
Yes.
Sure.
And then something that Commissioner O'Malley did not say, but I will ask, would we then do a roll call on each question or just have all three questions discussed and then at the end ask for a roll call on, or I should say a motion? That would require a motion, I believe, yes. And then at the end, we would ask for a motion for approval of the waiver or not. Which of the two do you think would be best?
I like it based on each item versus, so that way we can, it's a checkbox essentially of each individual baseline so that way then we can come to a vote
Okay.
at that point. I don't know if that's,
So what I'm thinking is each one, I think is what you're saying, each one we do a quick roll call.
yes,
Okay.
based on, what type of development and that kind of stuff.
In answering each of those three questions. Okay. But at the end, we would, of course, have to get a single motion to approve the waiver or not. But getting to it, it would help us in going through each one.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Commissioner Wallace?
We just kind of talk through the mechanics of that, for every development that comes through. So are we saying that when we're going to go, we're going to go to letter A, and we're going to, talk about, whatever that says there. Are you saying that then you're going to actually do a roll call vote on that, whether we all agree on that aspect of it, or what is I'm just trying to figure out the mechanics of it.
Right. So I think we would take the first one. A says the extent to which the open space in the proposed development exceeds the minimum requirements for the development as set forth in 9823 of the town code. So in the case of those districts that have a residential component, that would be that would be a discussion. For those districts that don't have a residential component, because you can't, if your residential component is 0 and your open space is 0, then anything you give, if you are industrial or community commercial, would exceed it.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is these all are kind of qualitative, right? And so when you're voting, you're yesing or knowing, right? Or yaying or naying, right? So I'm just wondering, what are you saying yes or no to if you're going to vote on each of these things?
So, great question. And so I think, in my mind, I can speak for me, is that Commissioner Bynek is saying, after we've thoroughly discussed each of those three questions, the question would be, who believes, and I'm paraphrasing here, who believes that the application or the parcel before us complies with or adheres to a favorable outcome of that question? And I'm being general here. So in the case of it is industrial or commercial, and they're giving us something, then I would imagine that discussion would be, that's very favorable. They didn't have to, they did. And if it's industrial or community commercial and they didn't give anything, it's not required of them, then, and this is kind of getting into the, let's kind of rehearse what that discussion would be. I speak personally, if it was not a requirement and they didn't provide any, then I think they met their requirement for their zoning district. Mm-hmm. Now, there may be other commissioners, and I'm just being careful and broad here, there may be other commissioners that said, well, it would be very generous if they did. And my standard, again, I'm role playing here, my standard would be, I would like to see something come from that parcel toward open space for the town. Mm-hmm. And that could be another commissioner's point of view, even though they don't have that requirement. And then, of course, you could have like the residential districting and, well, how much, if they do exceed what their requirement is to give us, then how much is good, how much is great, how much is fantastic? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting to, because I'm looking at C. I mean, some of them are clearer than others. So when you get to C, are you just going to say, period, like just ask the question, does it optimize the open space? Period. I mean, you've got like all, in consideration of nature, dimensions, quality, you know what I'm saying?
A lot of subjective things.
Right. So
Yeah.
are you just gonna roll call by the, does it optimize the proposed open space, yes or no? Like, I think we just need to think that through a little bit.
Yeah, so again, the question, so this discussion was generated by me asking, do we just have the discussion without a roll call through all three, get everybody's thinking out on the table, and then we ask for a motion, taking kind of all three into account, of course? And I believe another commissioner said, that's important because we do have to have a motion and a decision, but getting to it, if people wanted to share, if commissioners wanted to share through a roll call, show of hands as to, okay, this particular parcel then meets that question. And I'm using meets in kind of a generic sense because each of them are different. You understand?
Right.
I don't know if I've given you a good answer or not.
No, I mean, it wasn't necessarily for an answer. I think we just needed to kind of, we need to think through how that is going to look
Right.
when you're actually having that conversation, because there's a lot of things in C. And so it's like, can we just,
Simplify it?
yeah, like just, take the basic question
Right.
and then you have discussion around that basic question and then kind of turn it into a yes or no. I guess I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, and so that's kind of what this worksheet kind of does, because it takes 3C and it takes each of those words into its own separate.
But that's the thing. Do you want to go through each one individually, or do you want to just ask one question? Does it meet number 3?
I got you. And so from what I gather right now, I think what's being proposed is that we just read the question and then we let the discussion focus on the location. We let the discussion possibly shift to suitability, dimensions, quality, that sort of thing. And if it's not touched upon in that discussion of 3C, then I would probably, as a chair, say, do we have any discussions on that item that's not been raised yet or mentioned yet? And then I would probably, if there was no answer to that, then I would say, then I am going to believe that that particular element of 3C is satisfactory in this application, right? If there's no comment on it, everybody's happy with it, that sort of thing. Is that fair? Would that be agreeable?
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, and kind of the one question I wrote down too, and kind of my thought was, instead of going to 1, 2, 3, because if we ask the question for 1, it's not going to apply necessarily to everything, and it's not going to have, it doesn't have to exceed it really for a lot of these projects.
Right.
It's just a bonus, and it's something we can discuss. So
Right.
really, like what I wrote down was, look over your baseline, introduce it, go over what the facts are, and then my question was, does this project meet the above requirements? Why or why not?
Right.
And that's really the question that we need to get at. When you look at 25-5, does it meet the above requirements? Why or why not?
And when
So that's why, put it all together and just, what do you think of this project after you read the code?
Right. So in other words, come prepared to that process, having read all 3, and then when it's, after we go through the baseline data,
Yeah.
we open it to any and all elements found in those 3 questions, inviting the commissioners to then weigh in, pros or cons, adherence, non-compliance, however it may evolve. And then after that discussion encompassing all 3 questions, and we're exhausted, we would then ask for a motion and go forward.
That's my
We'll
thought.
be working as a team.
Yes.
Okay,
Especially if there's any hiccups or any disagreements, then it would.
gotcha.
But if everyone's in agreement, it's going to move a lot faster and it's going to be a lot,
Right. Yep, I hear that.
especially if we group it together instead of taking the time to pause.
Right. And again, yeah, go ahead.
That sounds a little bit different than what Kim said.
I think it's almost the same as us just having the discussion with each. So just us talking through all the points. So I'm fine with that, yeah.
Do it all at once instead of
Yeah.
separating it. That's
Yeah.
my thought.
Okay, so not a roll call unnecessary?
No, not a roll call.
Just good
necessary.
discussion?
Right.
Okay. I'm liking that. I didn't really like this, but I was giving you the extreme. And so I think I have it settled. And I can review either the minutes, Deborah, or this video to make sure that what I'll do is I'll take all this to an account. John, should we aim them for that process to be conducted in June 24th? Okay. So, so pending my ability to capture this accurately and get it through the Director of Planning. So John, if it's fair between us, and we'll info you, Mr. McCarron, to make sure we're legally sound on that process, I will reflect this last discussion so that we can make our first cut at this. This is the commission's first time to do this, right? So as I said in April 29th meeting to the applicant here, I'm in no hurry because I like to get things right, as righteous as we can on the first time. Given this discussion, I now would invite anyone in the public to make a comment with regard to the worksheet or the process that I believe we've evolved here. Seeing no public interest in discussion, I close that. And so we are now at reports and other business. And so Councilman Evans.
Did we want to talk about the planning commission review?
Yes, my bad. Thank you so much. See, that's why you have a vice next to you. The other items that I authored was a scheme, and I'm just going to use that term, by which we can efficiently handle the feedback that we are expecting in late June or early July from Frederick County, Carroll County, and the Maryland Department of Planning at the state level. And so that one pager here is a proposal for us to task organize so that hopefully we can kind of move quickly through that. And my interests were really in respect to your time, commissioners. And what I'm trying to do here is kind of keep all of us from having to look at all the data, that I want to try to see if we can partner into teams to where we have a dedicated team that looks at Frederick County, does the analysis, looks at what should be proposed as changes and amendments to the master plan draft, and then brief that to us at the appropriate time. And I've offered the times where, again, I would think we would get that from you. And so the teams I've broken down here are John, Director of Planning, Bill, and Commissioner Butts and Commissioner Wallace would focus on Maryland Department of Planning feedback. Mr. Griffith at State has indicated that he's looking at 2 July for that at this point. And you would focus on that feedback. For Carroll County feedback, and this would be coming through Ms. Weber, I would imagine, and her coordination effort, as she mentioned, it would be myself, Commissioner Beineck, and Commissioner Vita. And then lastly, Commissioners Hadley and O'Malley would then focus on the feedback coming from Frederick County, and I would imagine through Justin, okay? And
what's the timing, or has one been communicated for Carroll County and for Frederick County?
I don't think either one has nailed down a firm time. They have 60 days, and so roughly speaking, we launched their access to the draft documents in the kind of the 1 May, 3 May time period.
I think ultimately it was May the 6th that we actually released.
Okay, May 6th, the Monday. So 60 days from there would be roughly, the expectation. But I got to tell you, Hannah and Justin are so good. They're going to get this back to us within 30 days. And no, I'm just joking. But that's my best guess, Commissioner Butts. And the last thing I'll state here, and then just open it to anyone's pushback or rethinking on how to task organize for this next task. What I have at the very bottom then is the roles. You would look at that feedback, you'd analyze it. You would then reach within your team ideas and changes and propose new text and where they would go, where it would go, et cetera. And then you would be given an opportunity, again, for transparency and public awareness, you would be given an opportunity to brief that and make those recommendations and open it for further discussion from the remaining commissioners. And the timeline would be July 11th workshop that we have on our flow chart. I would lead off with the Carroll County feedback along with Commissioner Bynack and Commissioner Beta. And then July 18th, a week later, would be Martina and Steve for the Frederick County. And then July 29th would be the state feedback. John?
The only issue I have is on July the 11th, I will be out of the state.
Gotcha.
So, not that the workshop couldn't still occur. I can get somebody to support the meeting.
Okay.
So if it still wants to occur on the 11th, I mean, we could move it to the 25th, but I don't know how difficult that would be for everybody's schedules.
Yeah, no, I understand. Let me take a look at the flow chart.
Yep.
Because again, we're kind of, we're time sensitive with getting to where we offer it up for the public hearing, which has to occur. And then after the public hearing, changes from the public comments in the public hearing, then we'll probably evolve another draft that we will need to, confer on together. And then we aim toward, I believe it's October, for us to get it into the hands of the council. And they get a chance to put a wire brush on it and ask for changes, exceptions, et cetera.
And it sounds like we might have a whole nother chapter to integrate possibly.
I was going to say Hannah's comments about the housing element and everything else, which, Kim, it's great to have your feedback on as well. So, I mean, this could be a good place for us to draw that in.
Yeah, the housing resource, I believe it's called the housing resource element, and I believe housing element, and I believe there is a state-provided checklist. Yes, Hannah?
Yes, so in the Maryland land use article, I believe it's section 3, but it's like every element that a comprehensive plan has to have. So that includes the housing element. And so if you click on the housing element, it'll take you to everything your housing element has to include.
Gotcha.
So it's, yeah. I don't want to assume that MDP would comment that, but just saying they might, just put it on your radar a little bit.
No, that's good thinking. And so respecting Hannah's suggestion there, it would be then the state feedback team, it would be John, Bill, and Heather that would be kind of focused on that checklist. So after this meeting, I'm sure we can get that checklist into your hands just to kind of let you see what it requires. And
Since I'm up here, I just want to add that I have a lot of comments. I heard that we were the first ones like up for review. I'm just kind of warning you that I made a lot of comments. Like nothing bad, but just
no.
you know. And as I said in my update, that I sent it out to other county agencies. So I'm not sure what Frederick County's process is, if they do the same thing, but that's how Carroll County does it. So just want to make sure you guys have enough time to review it all.
No, that's very kind of you to provide that caveat. And again, I think the commissioners, we've kind of understood our workflow schedule has been Semper Gumby. I mean, we have been always flexible, and so,
They're obviously all considerations. It's nothing like you have to do besides the housing element probably. But yeah, it's completely up to you whether you toss my comments in the trash or not.
No, you've just signaled once again what great partners we have with our two county liaisons. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, that was my point of view going into it, that I know you guys did this a lot by yourself, and a lot of towns do like a consultant. So it's more, high level stuff, but yeah, wanted to add an extra pair of eyes for you guys.
You got high-level comments on there?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So let's try that.
I've got a question. I'm wondering if you had a lot of comments, and I think we would like to be aware of that.
Yeah.
And maybe even have the opportunity to have your feedback or your comment on the comments. So one of the things we might do and consider, if we do have questions, is to see if we could even have the possibility of arranging a video.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Where we could say, go into a little bit more detail, Hannah, about what you meant about this.
Absolutely.
comment.
Yeah.
About in the case of this and this and this.
Right.
What's your recommendation?
Yeah.
What's your preference?
I'm here to help you guys. So.
Yeah, and it's a very good point, and I kind of put that in the analysis part. So as you look at whatever entity provides you that feedback on whatever team, if you need clarity, by all means, engage whoever delivered it
Yeah.
to seek that clarity, and the means to do that, Zoom,
Right.
Teams,
And I tried
whatever.
to, obviously I have my own set of comments, and then as I said, I sent it out to other county agencies, and I included their names and contact information.
Oh, wow. Very
Just
good.
so if you have a question about one of their comments, instead of me saying, I'll follow up, but you just go straight to them.
Go straight to them. Super. Good point. So with that discussion and general idea, any opposition to breaking it down this way? Again, the interest is that I give you a focal area. The rest of your commissioners trust that team to kind of come up with the good stuff on how to make the draft plan better. When that presentation by that team is given, it's without saying that, we will respect their ideas and recommendations. We'll have a good, discussion on it. But we kind of look for that organization so that we can move on to the next step. So unless there's some opposition, then let's go ahead and see if this will work. Commissioner Walls?
I don't have opposition, but can we just briefly go over next steps after we all brief out our edits? Like, what are the next steps after that?
Yeah, so I don't have the workflow schedule in front of me, but after we go through the 11th, the 18th, and then July 29th PC meeting, I believe we have 2 meetings where we now will go through those changes and make sure they say the right things, they go in the right place, they achieve what that team is recommending. And so there are at least one, I believe there are 2 on the calendar for us to do that business from all 3 of those entities. And so what I'll be doing is, as each one is briefed and the discussion from that, I'll begin that editing for that next draft that'll go into that post-July 29th meeting. It's a date in August that we do that, so.
Is that, I don't know what version this is, but is it kind of similar?
Yeah, so it's August 8th is our work session to do a review of the county and state comments. And then we have an August 26th PC meeting. So those are the 2 that I was thinking of.
Just FYI, I will not be here for the August 8th meeting.
I don't think I will either.
Okay.
I will not be here for July.
It must be summertime. So,
Yes.
yeah.
So would you guys be open to another date in August for the discussion, or what was it, August 8th was the discussion?
August 8th.
8th and 26th.
Okay.
So the 26th is the PC meeting. I think that's fairly rigid. Perhaps we can adjust August 8th. Okay. And again, let me copy that down. Who's not here for August 8th?
Everybody.
Well, I'd like to have a quorum at that, so I don't think we will. Okay, so offline, or if your calendar is handy right now, what would be available other than August 8th for that first work session after all 3 teams have reported out?
Be a week or 2 later for me. I'm scheduled to go visit our daughter this week.
Okay, so what I'm hearing here is Thursday, August 15th, John? Is that?
No, I won't be back until the week of the 19th.
So should we do it earlier than the 8th? No.
I can't.
You can't, okay.
I will be.
22nd?
22nd's fine. Because I won't be here the 29th of July.
Okay.
So you said August 22nd, Steve?
Yeah.
So we're going to change August 8th workshop to August 22nd, right? And then we'll keep, of course, the August 26th commission meeting. Okay. I'll make the change on the workflow schedule. And, so that'll be, Commissioner Wells, that'll be the first time then we look at the draft which accommodates all the recommendations. And we'll have that opportunity, and then we'll have the PC meeting on that agenda to do a second look at it. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to close that item unless there's further discussion, and we'll move to, I'm going to get it right this time. Councilman Evans, quick report.
You got it. So for the May 6th Town Council recap, we had public hearings for the tax rates and budget adoption, which were held prior to the 7:30 meeting, with nobody speaking at either. New business, the Beck property pre-concept plan was denied with a vote of 3-1, with one council person abstaining. We had road closures approved unanimously for July 1st, the American Spirit Parade, August 31st, celebrate Mount Airy, and December 7th, the Main Street Christmas Parade. We had a bond reduction for Twin Arch Business Park, Section 4, lots 8 through 19 and 35 were approved unanimously. Annual paving contract was awarded to MT Laney for the fiscal year 2024-25. And for the ordinances, 2024-4 to adopt tax rate for fiscal year 2024-25 was approved with a 4-1 vote. 2024-5 to adopt the budget for fiscal year 2024-25 was unanimously approved. 2024-7 budget amendment to add $20,000 for sewer line inspection was unanimously approved. 2024-8 budget amendment was introduced. 2024-9 budget amendment was withdrawn. And 2024-10 through 2024-19 budget amendments were all introduced. 2024-20 to allow up to 2 members of the Sustainability Commission to be non-town residents was approved. And 2024-46 annex resolution for 1.319 acres at 4111 Twin Arch Road was introduced and will be referred to the Planning Commission. Next council meeting will be June 3rd, 2 weeks from tonight.
Any questions for Councilmember Evans?
I do. The annexation you were discussing, can you elaborate any more on that?
I cannot.
I can.
I have a lot of information on that, maybe.
I can. That'll be presented to you guys next month. It's down off of Twin Arch Road. It's a very small parcel, 1.3 acres. And it's part of the industrial park, which is called Pank Land. You guys saw a grading only permit I brought in front of you guys that I think was approved and they moved forward with. And ultimately, there's a site development plan that should be coming at some point for that parcel for industrial.
Is that the one you can see off of Twin Arch Road with the black fencing
right now
around it?
No, I don't think it's that. There's actually a metal gate and 57 stones sort of going up to an existing residence. It's that location. And then again, you can also see it if you go back East Ridgeville, back by Geyer Towing, you can see the parcel sort of back there. It's over 50 acres, not including this 1.3 acre parcel. That's currently all inside the town. This parcel is not inside the town, but it is in the ultimate growth boundary of the town. It looks like a bow tie. If you were to look at an aerial along Twin Arch Road, it's kind of a very small, oddly shaped parcel.
It's kind of east and south of the carnival grounds. Is that?
Yes, I would call it, yeah, east and north. I guess it might be south.
North, okay.
Yeah.
That side.
Yeah. It's on the right side of the road as you're
Kind of like a
heading out
north,
of
south, east,
town.
west.
Once again?
It's everywhere.
It's joking.
No worries.
And by code, you'll have 120 days from tonight to give a recommendation back to the town council. So you've got plenty of time.
Fantastic.
So if it's not on June's agenda, it's okay.
Fantastic. Okay. Any other questions for Councilmember Evans?
I had another one. So
Sure.
the site plan for the Beck property was not passed?
The pre-concept plan was denied.
Okay, what happens with that now?
Yeah, I was going to ask.
It's really up to the other side at this point, but theory, they could appeal to the circuit court.
They could also submit another revised plan potentially for the town council to possibly take another vote on, a revised plan possibly.
Correct.
Any other questions? Director of Planning has his zoning administration report before us in the packet. In the interest of time, any commissioner questions with regard to his report? John, would you like to add anything other than what's in the report?
Nope.
Okay. With that, we've completed reports and other business, so I'll do a quick roll call of any other items from the commissioners. Commissioner Wallace? Commissioner Bynec? Commissioner Butts?
John, one quick question here. So if you add in the Dennis subdivision and the Green Tree area, then we're looking at breaking 10,000 for the first time. You've got 10,053.
Are you referencing open space?
A town population, I believe, is that
Town
correct?
population. Total public, what, I'm sorry, I'm looking at open space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus public parks, okay, sorry, I stand corrected.
Yeah, so Commissioner Butts, I believe you're referencing what the town engineer and Julianne have compiled as their, I'm going to use the term bookkeeping, their real-time bookkeeping of the open space deeded to the town, correct?
Correct. But with that development, just to go on what Bill is maybe leading to, it will put us over 10,000 population.
I have no further comments. Commissioner Hadley? Commissioner Vita?
I have one last comment. I'd like to take a minute to acknowledge you, Ralph, for all of the hard work you've put into writing, rewriting, taking our comments and rewriting all of the drafts of the master plan, putting together this checklist, and just, thank you.
Yeah, it's been a team sport.
All of the time you spent on this.
That's,
Thank you.
And Bill, I'd like to also acknowledge you as well for that email you sent the other day about the seniors and all that stuff that you got back from.
And I'm going to be very interested to hear any feedback any of you have. Okay, this is critically important topics.
Well,
I need to hear you, and we're reaching out in the same way as thoroughly as possible to the coal members.
I appreciate your thoroughness, and I think, I don't speak for everybody, but I think we can all kind of say, great job.
Commissioner O'Malley, you're good? Okay. With that, no further discussion. I will adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting will be in June, on June 24th at 7:30 here in the town hall. This meeting is adjourned at 9 p.m. Thank you.